This time on Cherry Picking, Ford has a better idea.
The switch is on to Ford because Ford has a better idea.
That's right, today we are installing a super rare, probably one of the rarest optioned accessories for a 1967 Ford truck, and that is the cargo light. Today I'm going to install this cargo light, get it in the truck, get it all hooked up, and make my life a whole lot easier when loading and unloading this truck, because to be completely honest, I've had the stuff for this saved for years. In fact, I've had it saved so long that I don't even remember when this came about. My dad got it years and years ago, and it's just kind of been sitting. But recently, I've been doing a lot of work with this truck at nighttime, and I'll tell you what, I have been missing one very important thing, and that is light to see in the bed. Now, my truck did not come with cargo light. In fact, most 67 Ford trucks did not come with a cargo light. It was an extremely rare option, and I don't say that lightly. It is probably one of the rarest, if not the most rare options you could have gotten on a truck. The accessory itself is extremely rare. If it's not the rarest, it's definitely up there. There might be something else that's even weirder that nobody got, but it's more rare than bucket seats. It's more rare than AC. It's more rare than like 99% of the things you could get on these trucks. So today we're gonna install it. We're gonna cut a hole inside my perfectly virgin cab, but we're gonna put it in. And then I'm gonna have a super rare accessory on my already loaded rare accessoried truck. Again, just as a reminder, this truck is my 67 F250 that we have built a little bit on this channel. I redid the entire interior on this truck, and eventually it's going to get painted. Just, you know, it keeps working too good, so I don't stop to paint it. But the goal for this truck was to make it as if Ford made a King Ranch in 1967, which means options and accessories. And one of those is the cargo light. Now, many of you Ford truck enthusiasts might already be saying, well, cargo light, that's not that uncommon. I've seen it on tons of bump sides. Yes, but 67 was a 1 year only, like many things, including the cargo light. Not only is the harness 67 only, as it's made for multiple things, but it's even got the correct date codes on it. This is a C7TB part number. That harness that is super long. This one's actually in really good shape, mostly because they lived their entire life inside the cab. But the two most important and rare parts are the switch and the light. On a 68 and up, the cargo light was a knob that had a light inside the knob. Ford was fancy with that, and they just made this big chunky knob that had a red light in it, so when you pulled it, it turned on. In 67, they hadn't thought of that yet. So what they came up with is this: a little toggle switch, simple little toggle switch, and a little chromed out red light. They don't match anything else in the interior. They completely look out of place with everything else that's going on. They don't match the look of the knobs or the look of other lights inside the cab. But if I read you the part number on this little wire here that says Fomoco C7TB, and then it says 10, looks like a C915A for you part number gurus. This one, I can't actually read the part number. It's got a Ford stamp on it, and I'm sure it has the part number right after it, but I can't even read it. I've got to scrape it up. So we're gonna go ahead and try to install this guy. We're gonna cut some holes. I have a section of roof from an actual cargo light truck that I'm going to use to make my stencil to cut my holes, because as you can see, I've got to make one perfectly oval hole. Now, when the factory did this, the factory just used a stamp, and they stamped it on from this side out in the process. And as you can see, the hole's even off center from where the light actually sits. Now, the not so rare part is the actual light itself. I have a bunch of these, but what's funny is that I went and took this off of a 69 truck that we have out back that's for parts, and not even realizing it, it also has a C7TB number on it, as well as the C4SB number from the 64 Thunderbird, which is where these cargo lights actually originated. Because fun fact, Ford reused these lenses and housings from the 64, 5, and 6 Thunderbird, because these were actually reverse lights for a 64, 5, and 6 Thunderbird. If you look on the back underneath the bumper, these are the reverse lights, and they face a specific way. Ford decided, hey, that'll work great for a cargo light. And so that's what they did. They made a special gasket for it that fits the concave of the top of the cab, and then just change the part number, and there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. You've got a cargo light. So those pieces, easy to get because 68 through 72 trucks all had them a lot more commonly. The rare part specifically are these two pieces, as well as the correct harness that goes along with them. That's why this is so fun. This is so special. I like putting on these one-year only rare parts on the 67. It's hard to get, and it just makes it a little bit more exciting. But this is also serving as documentation for the 67 cargo light for Ford people, really, because I know that you gurus out there know how rare these are. And, well, I'm going to stop talking because it's going on way too long. And I'm going to go ahead and get these things cleaned up. They need to be chrome polished. They need to be washed and cleaned because they have been sitting for years. Luckily, they're in very good shape. I got to polish up. I may actually have to find another bezel because this bezel is pretty nasty and I don't know if it'll polish up very nice. I do have a few more I can go grab. And then the fun part, which we're going to do right now, is measure, outline, and then cut. Now, you're probably thinking, what am I going to use to actually cut this hole? And I'm going to tell you, it's the wrong way to do it. I'm using a 1 3/8 hole saw because that is the exact perfect diameter of the holes in here. We're going to drill 2 holes, and then I'm going to take an angle grinder and cut out the rest. And then we'll file it down so that it's not so rough. Is that the right way to do it? Probably not. Is it the way I'm going to do it because it's going to be covered and no one's going to see it ever anyways? Also yes. So let's get to measuring and cutting a big hole in my roof. All right, now the very first thing I've got to do is take measurements to figure out where the center of the cab is going to be. Okay? Now, it's here somewhere. Where I'm going to take the measurements from are from the very bottom lip of the corners where the cab seam is on each side. Now, I do think there is just a hair of leeway. I mean, I probably could be an 1/8 inch total off, and it would probably still look okay. I'm going to try to get it as close as I can, though. So, I'm also going to use some tape because I want to draw my stencil on this tape and not the cab. Actually, I can also use the window because I know that center is going to be close to this piece of trim. But I'm going to lay my tape exactly on that line there, okay, so that it's perfectly aligned. Lay it this right here, just right underneath it, okay, and then I'm gonna also tape right on the edge of the body line here as best I can, right on that top edge of that body line. Okay, so now I can try to find center. I'm gonna go right on the dip there. And we're looking at 57.5. Yeah, 57.5. Double check. 57.5. Half of that would be 28 3/4, right? 3/4 plus 3/4, 1.5. Yep, 28 3/4. So we're gonna go back to there, get back to there. 28 3/4. Which is exactly in the center of that piece of trim, like I said. So look at that. They got it perfectly there. Now that I've got my halfway point measured, I'll probably make a line to mark it. And I'm going to measure outwards. Total width of the light is about 8 1/4. So 4 1/8. Line that up. 4 1/8. It's the very outside edge. And then 8 1/4. That's total width right there. There we go. So that's our total width of our light. Now I'm going to measure inwards to where our hole is from where the farthest outside edge of our light in, which looks to be 1 1/8. So take this, line it up, and mark it at 1 1/8. Okay. This side is different. This side, it's going to be 1 3/4. Now it's different because it's offset. As you can see by this template, the actual size of the light is offset from the actual hole. This one was backwards, so it probably makes my life a little bit harder, but that's okay. I'm going to line that up, make sure that's the right size. Looks like the right size. Now I'm going to measure from the very top sill down, which measures to 3/4. 3/4. Just go all the way across. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go grab a straight edge, make that line across, and then make my oval. So I've just got a little combo square here. I'm just going to line them all up. Much better. All right. Now I would love to use this as a stencil. I don't know how well that's actually going to work. Yeah, I can try it. Don't love it. But that looks about right. Slightly 16th or so off on one side, but it's pretty damn close. So I just got to be on the outside of this line all the way around. Well, there's my hole. Now I got to cut it. It's kind of no good way to start this, to be honest. Help if I wasn't doing that. Perfect. Well, couldn't get it closer than that, I'll tell you that. That is like right on the edge of my line out there. Now I just need to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Perfect. That was the hard part. I'm going back now. I got holes in my cab. So now I just need to take the angle grinder and very carefully chop this line and this line. I'm going to start a little bit back, hopefully, so that I can come back with a file and smoothen it out. That's the plan. So let's do it. Cool. All right, that's gonna be hot. All right, we got a hole cut. Not too shabby. Now the fun part. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Only thing left is I gotta drill 2 holes for the screws, but I'm gonna do that after I set everything up and get it ready. Oh, apparently it got hot. Took some paint off. You can see my original lime gold underneath there, which is nice. Well, there we go. I'm gonna go get some files and clean it up, and well, meet you back here when we're setting it all on. All right, well, went ahead and cleaned up all the parts. Got it here. They turned out pretty good. I am gonna be on the lookout for another one of these chrome bezels. This one has a lot of crazing in it, and it's not perfect, but you know what? It shines up pretty good and it'll work fine. Plus, it's not like the rest of the truck is perfect. So, now's the time I'm going to put this back together. I do have a light bulb in here. Actually, the light bulb that was in this one. It doesn't look burnt out, so I'm going to run it, see if it works. I will eventually switch it out for an LED bulb, simply because the modern LED bulbs are so much brighter. They definitely don't last as long, in my experience, but they are so much brighter. So just need to put this guy back on. I don't know if there was a weather strip or some sort of adhesive or something from the factory. This thing was kind of stuck. The glass, I mean, was stuck to the bezel. And it kind of seemed like there may have been some sort of weather stripping originally or something. I'm not going to put any in. I mean, I've got multiple of these, so if for some reason this one breaks, I'll just replace it. All right, that's nice and tight. And there we go. There's our nice, shiny cargo light. I got this filed down and I drilled the 2 holes. So now I just need to put our screws in, and I just realized I need to go clean these screws up real quick. So let me go clean those up and then we'll put it on. All right, let's try that again. And this gasket, this is an original gasket. It's pretty rough, but I can buy a new one and I will in the future. For now, this will work. Just got to make sure it goes the correct way, because it actually does have a correct way. Now, just as a reminder, I used a 1 3/8 inch hole saw bit to make my initial holes. I don't want to get it too tight, but definitely want it on there. Okay, there we go. So I used a 1 3/8 inch hole saw to start my initial holes, and then I took an angle grinder, cut it out, and filed it. It's not perfect, but it's definitely not too bad. And this gasket covers a lot, so you really can have, you really can have quite a bit of room to mess up. And then I used an 1/8 inch drill bit to drill the pilot holes for these screws. It's kind of weird seeing it, especially once I get rid of this slider, which I know everyone loves the sliders. Yeah, I'm putting a single piece in once my AC's in there. It's just going to look a little bit cleaner, and I'll be able to see out of it much better because I have 1 inch to 1.5 inches of visibility just gone strictly because of the slider. And with the bucket seats, the way it sits high, it's kind of hard to see out the mirror. And because these trucks on 67 are bolted to the cab, it's a whole thing. You can't really adjust it that much. So now that this guy's on, now we get the fun part where we go in the interior and take the headliner out that I just put in, and then put the wiring in. So let's do that. Okay, so we're inside the cab of the truck, and I've got the headliner kind of half down. I don't want to take it out all the way because it's a lot of work to get it up there fitted the first time, especially by yourself. But I've got it down halfway, and the headliner I have is soft enough that I can kind of let it sit like this. Hopefully it doesn't break within the time I'm doing this, but I can get in there, which is the important part, because this is our harness. It is like 10 feet long, and let me show you the important parts. So, first things first, the crustiest part of this, female, male, pigtail that goes to the light. So this goes to the light, and then this whole thing basically feeds exactly where the dome light goes, all the way across the top of the cab up here, and then drops down the A-pillar on the front side over here, and then down to the dash. Now this is probably way longer than it needs to be. It's got a lot of room. And there's also one ground wire that feeds down and is separated about 2 feet or less than 2 feet in. It separates from the harness because this is meant to go down to your gas tank, I believe, and ground on the gas tank. That's what the picture seemed to show, I believe. No matter what, it makes sense because it's loose, and I think it drops down because this goes to the edge of the cab and then it separates. And then the front power wire goes towards the front. It drops down. It connects to something. Oh, one power wire. This is the power wire. It's just a single plug. And it gets routed, oh, I got my ground wire mixed up, to this, and this goes to the actual switch and the light. This is for the light, this is power for the light, and this is the switch harness that turns it on and off. So super simple. There should already be an accessory for this guy. I believe this is non-switched power. So this is like 12 volt all the time power, I believe. It could be switched. You might have to have the key on to turn the cargo light on. Honestly, I don't think you should have to have the key on to turn the cargo light on, but we'll see. That's why there's a light, so that it lets you know that it's still on. Also, so that, you know, you're not driving with it on. So the fun part of this is going to be routing it, because it is really tight, but I think I can just slide it in through the top. The hardest part's going to be getting this pigtail. The light's already in there, so I have to just connect this wire to it and then shove this whole thing in there very carefully. It's much easier once we get to here, but like I said, because I have this sitting down, I've got to be very careful. I don't have a lot of room to work. I just really don't want to take it out. So let's try to stuff it up in there. So I need to drop this pigtail down the cab and catch it. Set in here, does it not? Feels like it does. Good. The first part's in. Second part, now I have to come over here. I think this is going to be easier for me to just carefully get out and let this down. This gets ran across. Clip there. Clip there. Now the fun part, this whole harness has to get ran down the A-pillar, and that's going to be not super fun. All right, I've got it started to be fed. Oh, where are you? I've got it started to be fed, but I've got to take my dash. I got to lean my dash forward, which I hate doing because it's kind of a nightmare to put in and out, especially considering I have mismatching screws. But I've got to lean the dash forward because the hole that enters the cab is way up here, and I can not get my finger up there easily to feed the wiring in. Dash is going to tilt forward. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is not a stock 67 dash cluster. It is out of a F600. The one that I have specifically had a wiper switch, which is why there's a hole here. I have a vacuum gauge, fuel temp, oil pressure, and alternator, as well as the speedometer mainly. And then the biggest thing, the most important thing, is my tach. I have a 4,500 RPM tach from a big late model truck, and I mean late model as in like 70s, because my tach is electronic. And if you know anything about these Ford trucks, you'll know that most of the tachs for the big trucks were cable driven off of the distributor. However, on some really late model trucks before the switch to the newer dash style, you could get Duraspark with electronic tachometer, which is what I have. It's a really rare option, hard to get, really cool, and it works great. I'm glad I have it. All right, I gotta get this thing out, which I haven't had this thing out in a long time. Like a really long time, actually. I also don't want to... That's probably all I need, actually. Yeah, I don't need to go further than that. All right, so I want to say there's an accessory plug right there, but I should be able to reach my hands in here and feel, yep, there it is. I do have a grommet that I'd like to run them through if I could, but it's hard as a rock and it's been pushed out, so we'll see if I can even do that. All right, well, I can clearly see at least one accessory wire, but I'm pretty sure it's switched power. In fact, I'm almost 100% sure it's switched power. So, I guess I'm gonna have to get a multimeter real quick. All right, so I'm not really finding any other plugs to plug it into besides this switched power accessory 3-prong plug. Comes right off the, I don't know if you can see it in here, comes right off the key ignition. So it's keyed. I think that may have been what they did. My dad and I are going back and forth. The problem is there is not a lot of information on these 67s. They're just, they don't exist. And so trying to figure out how Ford ran it is a little hard. I seem to think that you should be able to run the cargo light without turning anything on. However, the concern is that maybe you leave it on. And there is a little light that tells you that it's on, but when you exit the vehicle, you leave it on. So putting it on the keyed ignition, for me, the only reason I don't want to is because I have a stereo that automatically turns on and starts playing music. And so every time I want to turn the cargo light on, if I turn the ignition on, it's a hassle. It's all a personal, selfish thing. That's just something I'm gonna have to deal with because I can't find anywhere else to put it on. So it's gonna go on that. I gotta hook up the ground. I'm just gonna hook it up right now underneath one of the bolt heads for the gas tank because that's grounded. So I'm gonna do that, and then we'll plug in the power, plug in the switch, test it out. All right, so theoretically, if I plug this wire into here, has to be something because I just felt a shock. Where can I ground this so I can see?
Look at that. Look at that picture.
See what I mean about the, yeah. This definitely has to be grounded, so I guess I'm gonna unplug this real quick and actually bolt it to the dash. All right. Feed it there. Now let me show you on the dash on these trucks. Ford was still figuring out how to do stuff. So if you have a 67 with a deluxe heater, you had a plug in the dash, just a chrome plug that covered up a hole that would be the location for the heater cable for a non-deluxe heater. But if you have a deluxe heater, you have the 3 poles in the middle of the dash. If you didn't get a truck with a deluxe heater, you got the economy heater, which is kind of rare now at this point. I'm sure a lot of trucks were optioned with it then, but now it's hard to find trucks without it. Mostly fleet service trucks, stuff like that, they got the economy heater. That was on a cable pole next to the cigarette lighter area where this chrome plug is. On the deluxe heater trucks, that chrome plug, if you got a cargo light, would be replaced with this guy. Then the factory would then drill a hole next to this switch for the actual light. They would just drill a hole the size of this, slide it through, and then this just gets pressed and twist on. It's got a spring clamp, and it's just a little light. That's all it is. It's just a tiny little chrome light. So that's how you would have it if you had the deluxe heater. If you had the economy heater, the switch goes somewhere else. I don't even know where it goes now that I'm thinking about it. It went somewhere else because you had the heater pole where the switch would go. I'll put it in here if I find out. So let's put the switch in. So like I said, you've got this chrome plug here. It's literally just a little push-in plug. You probably wondered, is that factory? And yes it was. That's what it looks like. Like I said, got the little hole here. Now mine is rusted around, so this will never look like it was factory cargo light, but that's okay. All right, so after doing a little bit of searching, I realized that after looking at the picture in the Ford book, it actually shows the indicator light to be where the deluxe heater hole is. And then it shows the switch right next to it. The indicator light hole, though, is too small for the indicator light housing, so you actually have to open it up. And this housing actually has a little notch at the bottom that aligns it with that lower hole. Now, I do not believe that I will be able to get it to be notched, because it only has to size up a tiny bit more, and that notch is almost 1/4 of an inch down. I don't think it's going to be that much, because I found that this is a 5/8 drill bit. So we're going to try it with a 5/8 bit, and then the hole for the actual switch mechanism, which goes right next to it, is 1/2 inch, which sounds about right. So 5/8 and 1/2 inch drill bits, and you have to bore out the existing plug hole if it's not already, and then also drill a new hole right next to it for the switch. Now, Where the switch hole goes, not entirely sure. I'm going to drill out the indicator first so that the indicator can fit in there, and then I will most likely eyeball what looks to be middle and just try to match it up so that they all look like they're in a row, because the choke and the lighter are aligned. This will be relatively aligned, even though it's a different size. Big scary stuff, but I got to get this done. The sun is going down, so, well, it's no time like the present, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and chuck up these bits. I still have to finish putting up the headliner. So I'm just going to all we're doing is widening it out. All right, there's the hole. Oh yeah. A little tight. Fits perfect. So now I just gotta create a notch, because like I said, it's not perfect. So let's notch it, and then we'll get it installed. So we've got it notched, which means that it fits right in there. I've already got it attached. And now I'm just going to probably just center the switch just somewhere right here so that it kind of looks normal. It's not going to fit perfectly, but the distance, well, it's not perfect. I'm pretty sure from the factory they probably just eyeballed these. I'm sure the dealers definitely just eyeballed them, so that's what I'm gonna do. All right, the sun really is going down, so I've got to be a little bit swift. Don't want to rush it, but it's got to get done. The other thing is I do have to make sure that there is nothing in the way of where it's gonna be. I don't think there is. Well, it's hard because part of me wants to space it exactly the same edge to edge that the rest of these are. The other part of me just wants to center it between what's already there. I think I'm just going to center it between what's already there. Well, no going back. There we go. All right, I actually grabbed 2 bits so that we could work our way up. So we're going to start with an 1/8 inch, move up to like a 5/16, and then we should be able to finish it up. Okay, there's a little hole, looks good. Okay, try our 5/16. Move it on up. Okay, and let's see, this should be the last one. This is actually a really good bit, so it should be able to do this. Yep, there it goes. All right, let's make sure my piece fits. Yep, fits perfect. Sweet. So now we can attach. Now we can attach it and put this all back together, which the sun is down, so I gotta be quick because I gotta use this thing tomorrow morning. So I'll see you back here when it's all back together. Okay, so I've got everything back together, but the sun has set, as you can see, but we're back together, and you can take a peek if we hop up in here. I've got my dome light on, and if I turn my ignition on, oh, apparently I have a turn signal on, and it's really dark, so I apologize, but I can come down here to my switch, turn it on, and there we go, cargo light. So sweet, it's actually pretty bright. I'm actually surprised. I was gonna put an LED, and I might still, but it's actually pretty bright back here. I mean, I can definitely work with it. And it's got a nice red light on the dash, and that just lets you know that it's on. Now I could actually come back here and get some light on my face as the sun sets, as we wrap up pretty much the end of this video. This was a really rare part that I've held on to a long time, and it's been a project that has been on my plate for literally since 2016 when we got this truck on the road. So that's how many years? 9 years? So for 9 years, this light has been waiting to go on, and now I finally have one. Makes a big difference. Makes this truck one step closer to being finished and being a done truck. So as I end here in the dark, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I'm finally able to get back on track with some videos and just get some more stuff uploaded. We've got more for the 67 F250 Camper Special, the blue one that's over there. And we have more with a bunch of other things. The Mustang is going to be hopefully making a comeback pretty soon here, I hope, as well as some other vehicles that you haven't seen yet. So if you like this content, let me know. Go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe even if you want to see more of this type of content. I'm really trying to build up my platform to continue making videos and working on trucks because it's just fun. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you next time on Cherry Pickin'. See ya.